It's October the 24th, but 2023 is far from over. We've still got several major high-end cameras expected to be announced by Sony and Canon. But what about Nikon, Panasonic, OM System and Pentax announcements before the end of 2023? Stick around after this short break for all the details on what we can expect from all the major camera brands before the end of the year. But first, subscribe to this channel for a chance to win a Canon EOS R5. I'll be giving one away to one lucky subscriber once this channel reaches 100,000 subscribers. Anyone above the age of 18 with a valid mailing address is eligible. Additional terms and conditions are linked in the description down below. Let's go ahead and start off with Sony because we're actually expecting a big major Sony announcement on November the 7th or 8th. Now we don't know what day it is because we don't know the time. For some of you, it is going to happen on November the 7th, and for the rest of you, it's going to happen on November the 8th. And this coincides with Sony's Creative Space 2023. And according to Sony Alpha rumors, we're expected to get the announcement of a 300mm GM Prime, as well as a successor to the A9 II, the Sony A9 III. And it's supposed to be the fastest camera ever, fastest stills hybrid camera ever, according to the latest leaked specifications. And really, that's all we have in terms of leaked specifications. This camera is supposed to be announced in a couple of weeks. It's supposed to be a major camera announcement, along with a 300mm GM. But at this point, we don't have any leaked specifications. We don't have any leaked images, and worse still, we don't have any sort of scheduled event, nothing on YouTube, nothing on their website. And if this is supposed to be a major camera announcement, the fastest ever stills hybrid camera, the Sony A9 III, well, if it is that big of a deal, we can expect an announcement. We're not just going to get them tell us right on the same day. Whenever a camera company comes out with a major camera, they always schedule it with at least several days beforehand. Now with Sony, with the A9, well, I was going to say the A9 II, with the Sony Alpha 1, when they announced it, we only had about 6 to 12 hours, but we did have some sort of announcement scheduled. And as far as other cameras, other Sony cameras, well, take a look at this slide here. You can see that we actually have 3 Sony registered cameras. One that was registered on September the 4th, which we believe to be the Sony A9 III, and 2 more registered on September the 20th. So what could they be? Well, I did have a previous source telling me that the Sony Alpha 1, the successor to the Alpha 1, the A1 II, is going to be announced sometime before the end of this year, but Sony Alpha Rumors has poo-pooed that. So we don't know what this other camera is going to be, but it's most likely going to be a stills hybrid camera. The other option is we're going to get a cinema camera, and it could be an FX line camera. It could be a high-end camera like a Venice camera. We don't know the details, but we are getting 3 cameras. Now, whenever we have a registration, you look at that registration date, and then you figure sometime within 1 to 3 months is when we'll actually get an announcement. So getting the Sony A9 III on November the 7th and November the 8th certainly makes sense. It's plausible, and that would put it, just a couple of months after the registration. So if we look at the registration of those other 2 cameras, that means we could get an announcement of 2 other Sony cameras by the end of November. But as that puts us into Black Friday and into the Christmas rush, there is a chance that Sony could delay those 2 camera announcements to January, the middle of January to the end of January, or maybe they'll do something right after Creative Space, let's say in the middle of November. So anything's possible, but Sony looks to be having the most amount of major camera bodies announced here in 2023. Nikon had a very big 2023 with the announcement and release of their Nikon Z8 full-frame mirrorless camera. Dubbed the Mini Z9, it pretty much had all the same capabilities as the Nikon Z9 for about $1,500 less. And then Nikon also released the 180 to 600mm as well as the 135mm prime. And if you're a Nikon customer, you definitely did have a pretty good year, but there is one camera that you've been waiting for, and the Nikon Z6 Mark III, according to the latest rumors from, well, going way back to last year, were telling us that we were getting the Nikon Z6 Mark III announced last summer. And then, nope, it's going to happen before May. And here we are, October the 24th, and we still don't have any announcement of the Nikon Z6 Mark III, the Nikon Z7 Mark III. No rumors, no nothing on that camera. Now, in terms of a release before the end of 2023, it's certainly possible. There is a chance that Nikon has been doing a really good job of, well, holding their secrets close to their chest, and we could get an announcement this year. But in terms of probability, I would rate that at less than 25%. The real probability of a Nikon Z6 Mark III or a Nikon Z7 Mark III is most likely going to happen sometime between the middle of January till the end of May, and an announcement of those two cameras, the Nikon Z6 Mark III and the Nikon Z7 Mark III, I would rate that as a 65% probability that we'll get it in the first half of 2023. But there's also a chance it could happen in the fall. I don't know what it is about those two cameras, but we always seem to get fall announcements. A little bit frustrating because I know a lot of you like the Nikon Z8, you love the Nikon Z9, you like a lot of the lenses that we're getting from Nikon, but those cameras are out of your reach. You really want to see a refresh of the Nikon Z6 Mark III, the Nikon Z7 Mark III, and yes, the Nikon ZF is a surprisingly good camera, but what goodness is Nikon going to bake into the Nikon Z6 Mark III? So I'm really looking towards 2024 for any more Nikon announcements. I don't expect much in terms of 2023, although we could get a few more lenses. Like Canon, Nikon's decided to stop sending us, well, roadmaps telling us what's coming out. I wish it was the other way around. I wish Canon would start giving us roadmaps of what lenses to expect instead of Nikon copying Canon. But anyhow, there it is. But before we get to Canon, I want to cover Panasonic. Panasonic did something really wonderful this year, something incredible. They finally released a camera with a phase detect autofocus system. And yes, it does have a hybrid system, but you're able to now shoot video on a Panasonic camera with a phase detect autofocus system, which is actually pretty good. But I want to go back to 2019. We had an announcement of two incredible cameras, and this was, I believe, in January. It could have been early February, and that was the S1 and the S1R. And then a few months later, we had the S1H. Really incredible cameras, and I was tempted to get the S1 when it came out, but having a contrast detect depth from defocus autofocus system, no. Watching some of the review videos, I was actually getting a headache because of the pulsing. I actually didn't notice the pulsing, but later on I paid more careful attention. I put it on my big screen TV, and I realized it was the micro pulsing in the video that was giving me a headache. Yeah, that dashed my hopes of getting a Panasonic camera at the time. That was 4.5 years ago, almost 5 years ago when we got the S1 and the S1R. We're definitely due for the Panasonic S1H Mark II and the S1 Mark II. I don't know about the S1R. I don't think we're going to get any announcement this year. We haven't heard anything in terms of leaks and rumors, no development announcement. Everything's been absolutely quiet regarding Panasonic. But I know they're working hard away on it. And Panasonic, like some other companies, Sony, they don't mind having us wait 5 years for a camera. I just certainly hope they don't have us wait longer. I expect Panasonic to announce the S1 Mark II as well as the S1 sometime in 2024. I think there's a 50% probability we'll get it in the first half, but with Panasonic, you never know. We could have to wait until October to get the announcement of those two cameras. What about you? Are you excited? Now, one thing Panasonic has hinted at is that the S1H Mark II or the S-series cameras isn't going to get 8K video. Now, this wasn't such a big deal last year, but now we have over 6 cameras that deliver 8K video. And it's not so much being able to export an 8K video, it's being able to have high detailed 4K video, 8K oversampled 4K in camera. That's truly impressive. And if you think, wow, that's too much detail, yeah, so what? No big deal. You can always tune down the detail in post or with the camera settings. But the one thing you certainly can't do is you can't turn up detail. But now it's time to turn our attention to Canon. First off, the bad news. We're not going to get any new camera announcements in 2023. No Canon EOS R5 Mark II, no Canon EOS R1, no successor to the Canon EOS RP, no APS-C body. 2023 is all about lenses. While we don't know exactly which lenses are supposed to be announced, Canon Rumors has said that the RFS 10 to 18mm is most likely due out this year. Sony Alpha Rumors is saying that we're getting a 200 to 800mm. But this is Canon Rumors' latest 2024 Canon RF lens roadmap. All the lenses in white are lenses that are supposed to be coming out sometime between now and the next 6 months. All those in green, well, they've already been released and were part of Canon Rumors' 2020 Canon RF lens roadmap, and they got pretty well everything correct. So we're expected to get an RFS 11 to 22mm, an RFS Fast Prime, a bunch of tilt-shift lenses, as well as a few zooms, the 10 to 24mm, as well as a 70 to 200mm f2.8. an RF 24mm prime f1.4, as well as that elusive 35mm f1.2, but also could be an f1.4 like the EF version. And of course, when it comes to super telephoto, the Canon RF 500mm f4 and the 200 to 500mm. Now that's a lot of lenses. I don't know how many of those we're supposed to be getting in 2023, but I expect another lens announcement before the end of this month. I expect that we might get several announcements in June. Did I say just June? No, I'm talking about November. And as far as December goes, usually December's very quiet. Usually we don't get announcements past the first week of November, but you never know. The rest of those lenses are supposed to come in the first quarter of 2024. And in 2024 is where we're supposed to be getting some major Canon announcements, not in 2023. If you've been watching this channel, if you're subscribed to this channel, then you'll know, no surprises, that the Canon EOS R5 Mark II is supposed to be announced on the heels of CP+, which is happening, I believe, around February the 22nd, 2024. We're also supposed to get a bunch of lenses announced on the heels of CP+. So the Canon EOS R5 Mark II, we've got a bunch of leaked specifications on that camera. I'm not going to talk about them right here, but let's just say nothing's really been validated. We're hearing that it's going to either have something like a 62 megapixel stacked full frame sensor, or it could stick with a 45 megapixel stacked full frame sensor. It could have dual CF Express Type B card slots, or a single CF Express Type B card slot. We just don't know. They're all over the place, but one thing I think we can safely expect to have is a stacked sensor. When it comes to stills, due to that stacked sensor, we're going to have better low light performance, better dynamic range. And for video shooters, with a new Digic X image processor, one thing I can certainly expect to see is that 4K HQ mode where we get full sensor readout, 8K over sample 4K, won't just happen in 24, 25, and 30 frames per second, but 50 and 60 frames per second as well. And I wouldn't be surprised to see if we get it in slow motion at 100 and 120 frames per second as well. It won't be as detailed as 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second, but that's what I'm expecting. Now, in terms of leaked specifications, development announcements, and photos, at this point, we just essentially have speculation. Canon Rumors hasn't been able to validate anything. Most of their stuff is rated as a CR0 or a CR1. And that's the frustrating part. However, as we progress further into November and December, because leaks, well, they don't stop at the beginning or end of November. I expect to get more information leading up until we get the final announcement. And I do expect to get more details on specifications, leaked specifications on this camera. And I'm really looking forward to it because I myself need a second camera. I like the R5. I was thinking of getting another R5 when I saw them on sale over $1,000 off, but I decided to hold off because, well, if we're coming out with a new camera, it's going to be refreshed very soon, then why not get that? Use that as my daily driver, and then I can talk to you about what it's like to live with an older Canon EOS R5 as well as the brand new one. And of course, the Canon EOS R1, we don't have a lot on that camera, but what Canon Rumors has told us is starting in January of next year, we can start to get a slow leak of information, and Canon is going to give us some sort of announcement. And what that likely means is not likely a full-blown announcement, but most likely a teaser or maybe even a development announcement. So 2024 is going to be a big year for Canon in terms of lenses. We will see some lenses coming out here in 2023. But you might be wondering, well, what about Fujifilm? What about Pentax or OM System? Well, we haven't heard anything. Crickets chirping. That's it. Nothing from any of those companies in the last quarter of 2023. If you're looking for a new Fujifilm or an OM System camera or even a Pentax, one of the few companies sticking with DSLRs, you're going to have to wait until 2024. And if you want to stay up to date on all the latest camera gear, news, and rumors, then go ahead and subscribe, but make sure you also choose all notifications. And by doing that, as soon as I publish a new video like this one here, I get the latest leaked specifications on the R5, well, you'll get notified so that way you can stay up to date on the latest camera gear, news, and rumors. And for all those minor news announcements, all news and rumors, or pricing information, then go ahead and follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, because I'm constantly tweeting out information. Last week we saw some incredible deals on the Canon EOS R5, $500 off it and the R5C, and $1,000 off the Canon EOS R3. And if you're interested in purchasing any lenses, camera bodies, or accessories, then please consider using my links, my affiliate links to B&H, Adorama, or Amazon.com, because I get a small commission back, and that really does help fund this channel. It's one of the reasons why I'm able to purchase the Canon EOS R5 Mark II as well as the Canon EOS R1 in 2024. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again soon.